Dude, are you ever gonna review Spider-Man 2? It's been almost 2 years since this review came out and still nothing. Yeah, the Spider-Man 2 review never fucking happened. You need to finish the Spider-Man 2 review! Spider-Man 2. What about Spider-Man 2? What about your Spider-Man 2 review? What about your Spider-Man 2 review? Are you gonna review Spider-Man 2 the video game? When is he gonna review Spider-Man 2? Love the video, but Spider-Man 2 and Ultimate Spider-Man reviews when? Never got to see your Spider-Man 2 game review. When are you gonna review Spider-Man 2 along with the other Spider-Man games? Spider-Man 2 review. Spider-Man 2 review. Still waiting. Okay, I'm sorry, but where is the Spider-Man 2 game review and Ultimate Spider-Man review? I'm waiting for the video for them. Hurry up with the Spider-Man 2 review. Still waiting for the Spider-Man 2 review. Spider-Man 2 review. So, Spider-Man 2 review soon? Good review. Wish you could do Spider-Man 2 when you can. Where's the Spider-Man 2 video? Where's the Spider-Man 2 review? Did he ever make a video for Spider-Man 2 the movie? Please finish the Spider-Man marathon and do Spider-Man 2. What about Spider-Man 2? Are you gonna review Spider-Man 2 the video game? Are you still gonna review Spider-Man 2? If you are, can you please mention the PSP version and the PC version like you did in the Sonic Unleashed review when you talked about the Wii port? Do you think of reviewing Sonic Forces anytime? No, young one, not yet. First must come Ultimate Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 the movie, game 2, and 3. Cool. I love you so much. Spider-Man 2 review, please. Dear do a review on Spider-Man 2. Shame you won't be completing the marathon. Would have been cool to at least see a Spider-Man 2 review. Where is the Spider-Man 2 review? Are you gonna be doing Spider-Man 2 soon? I really wanted Spider-Man 2 and 3, but I was stuck with Spider-Man 1. Can you review Spider-Man 2? Please? No Spider-Man 2 review? Ever? Where's the Spider-Man 2 review? Cooper, are you gonna do a Sonic Mania review? Most importantly, where's Spider-Man 2? When is the Spider-Man 2 review coming? Sorry for yelling about Spider-Man 2. Can you please review Spider-Man 2 the game? I wanted a Spider-Man 2 video. Do some retrospective on Sonic Mania. When will you do Spider-Man 2? It's been a while since the last Spider-Man review, huh? Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, a movie I adore to this day. It's such a well-made, solidly crafted superhero movie that in my opinion, still holds up. Sure, it's a bit goofy in some areas, but that's honestly why I love it. I still recommend this movie to anyone who hasn't seen it yet. It's still a really well-made movie. Alright, much like the first game, Treyarch was put in charge of creating a video game based off the movie that ended up being released 2 days before the actual movie. Whoops. While Treyarch could have easily built more off the gameplay style introduced in Spider-Man PS1, however, the game devs wanted to take a different approach for the game. They wanted to give it a more open-world approach, with a way more dynamic swinging mechanic, altered combat, and probably the biggest accomplishment, you can touch the ground and not die. Holy shit, how incredible.
It broke new ground!
Anyways, Treyarch really aimed for this game to be bigger and better than the first game in several areas. So yeah, let's get this review started. Here's my long-awaited review of Spider-Man 2 the game on the original Xbox. Yes, I'm looking at the home console version for this video. There's like a million different versions of Spider-Man 2, but I'm gonna focus on the one that everyone cares about. Though I will point out there was a PC version of the game, but it played nothing like the console version, and a lot of people at the time complained about that, and thankfully got issued refunds. Those poor souls. With all that said, here's Spider-Man 2. The plot takes elements from the actual movie, while also adding subplots to expand the game time, with each story arc being separated by individual chapters. The plot centers around Peter Parker, voiced again by Tobey Maguire, going about his daily life as Spider-Man, while also trying to balance being Spider-Man and having a personal life as Peter Parker, which isn't very easy for him to do. Meanwhile, Dr. Otto Octavius, voiced by Alfred Molina, yep, they got him in the game too, is working on a nuclear fusion experiment where he tries to harness the power of a sun to help give a lot more energy to Manhattan. Just like in the movie, it doesn't go too well and Doc Ock is born, thus meaning Spider-Man has to stop him. During this, Spidey bumps into Black Cat, another vigilante that's also a part-time jewel thief. Spidey pursues her and often gets into trouble because of her. There's also a new villain calling himself Mysterio, causing a ruckus in the city of New York, so Spider-Man has to stop him too. And that's the general summary of the plot, and it's not terrible. It's enjoyable enough. It's obviously not 100% faithful to the movie, but we wouldn't have had that much of a video game if it didn't do that. First things first, the subplot with Mysterio doesn't really go anywhere. It's just his special effects technician trying to show he's more impressive than Spider-Man when he clearly isn't. Though this does lead to a very hilarious boss fight. I gotta say, I love the bits with Black Cat. I liked her chemistry with Spidey quite a lot. It's always fun seeing her pop up in the story to give Spider-Man something to do. It was really interesting to watch, and I feel like it had a nice wrap-up link compared to the other story arcs in the game. The main plot with Doc Ock is where the movie similarities happen, and it's not really as good as the movie. Kinda. I mean, it does a very faithful job adapting the movie, so it's fine in that aspect. But there are some bits that make me go, what? One thing that's always bothered me in both the movie and the game is when Harry tells Doc,
"Go find Peter Parker. He takes pictures of that bug for the Bugle. Don't hurt him, though!"
To which he then proceeds to throw a car at him. Great maneuver, Ock. Good thing Peter got his powers back in that time, otherwise he would have died. Oh yeah, that's one thing they cut from the game's plot, for probably a pretty obvious reason. Peter losing his powers. I'm actually kinda sad they cut this story arc since it was a major part of Spider-Man 2's plot. But then again, I guess playing as a powerless Peter Parker would not have been very fun. Also, the recreations from the movie to the game are kinda laughable. I mean, they just don't look anywhere near as epic, and it makes it come off more like a budgeted title in these aspects. The cutscenes are presented in both pre-rendered and in-game cutscenes, and I probably prefer the in-game cutscenes because the pre-rendered ones haven't really aged too well. These give me very Uncanny Valley vibes whenever I rewatch them. They just did not hold up too great.
This is bad!
You can say that again, though it's not like the in-game cutscenes are that much of an improvement. The cutscenes are just okay. The presentation is fine, it's passable, though I do feel it could have been a little better. Most of the cutscenes ran just fine, but there was this one weird-ass glitch I encountered where Peter enters the Daily Bugle, but the cutscene didn't load properly and Peter just sort of walked down the hallway and ran into a wall. None of the other cutscenes messed up like this, so that's very jarring. Guess my copy must be damaged or something, I don't know. When it comes to the voice acting, like I mentioned before, Tobey Maguire and Alfred Molina voice Peter and Otto respectively, but we also have Kirsten Dunst voicing Mary Jane as well. This sounds great and all, but sadly both Tobey and Kristen sound bored out of their minds, but Alfred does an alright job. Josh Keaton returns to voice Harry Osborn, he does a good job too. Though, once again, it's really weird seeing my two favorite Spider-Man actors in the same game again, especially when they're playing off each other.
Harry, we don't have time for this. Octavius has MJ. You have to tell me where he is. I have to save her.
Mary Jane. Octavius. He has a lab that he set up on an abandoned pier. She's probably there.
My favorite performance was probably Holly Fields as Black Cat. She did an amazing job. She has tons of charisma spread throughout her performance, and I just loved every minute of it. Also, Shocker makes a brief return, and he's still voiced by the same guy from the first game, so that's cool. J. Jonah Jameson's also here, but he sadly isn't voiced by J.K. Simmons, which is disappointing. Oh yeah, and Dr. Connors was voiced by the late Looney Tunes actor, Joe Alasky, which made me have the shocking realization of, wait, Bugs Bunny voiced Dr. Connors? Also, why is Peter wearing his glasses throughout the game? Didn't his spider powers give him clear vision? So odd. That's about all I have to say about the story and voice acting, so I think I'll move on to the gameplay, since I'm sure that's what most of you are interested in hearing about. Well, we've gotten a radically different and new gameplay style compared to the last game, so where to start? I guess the swinging is an obvious one. The swinging is no longer automated. Here it's a lot more manual and has much more fluent swinging. Basically the way it works, for easy swinging at least, which is what I used, don't judge me. You hold the right trigger to shoot a web at a building, you swing, let go, then repeat. Yeah, that's the best way I could describe it. Web swinging is a lot of fun in this game. It's just all about the physics and weight. I'm honestly surprised this gameplay mechanic was abandoned at all in future games. It's absolutely perfect for Spider-Man. I'm pretty glad the PS4 game seems to have brought it back. Yes, I said seems to have brought it back. I still haven't played it yet. You can blame my PS4's HDMI port for dying on me. In the midst of this new web slinging mechanic, we also have a super jump and run button of sorts. You charge your jump by holding the A button and letting go to launch straight in the air. The run button, or more, the run trigger, is simple to figure out. Though one thing that's really cool is that you can combine the super jump and running to launch yourself forward, which is awesome to pull off. I love launching myself off buildings, it's so mesmerizing, though there is fall damage, so be careful. Also, you learn most of these moves in a tutorial at the beginning of the game. While forced tutorials usually suck, I don't think this one sucks because I like how this tutorial is once again being narrated by Bruce Campbell, just like the first game's tutorial. I think Bruce just makes this more entertaining.
Okay, so the next thing I want you to do is jump off the building. I mean it, just jump. Hey, I wouldn't tell you to do something dangerous and life-threatening, would I? Come on.
Moving on to the combat, it's alright. You have a main punch move and a new spider sense which sends everything into slow motion so you can dodge attacks much easier. I love using the run button to slam enemies in the air and beat them up while in midair. It does get a bit repetitive doing this over and over again, but it's still pretty fun. You can also build up this energy bar, which is what your spider sense uses up. To build up energy, you just gotta be good at dodging enemy attacks, or maybe just perform acrobatic stunts while web slinging. This method always seems to work for me. If you want to improve both your web slinging and combat, you gotta go to a store to buy upgrades. How do you buy upgrades? You collect hero points. How do you get hero points? You do missions. This could involve swinging around until a crime pops up on the map, and stopping it will earn you some hero points. Another way of earning hero points is by talking to random citizens on the street. Somehow they can telepathically know when a crime is happening. Like some of them can detect when a crime's happening like a mile away from them. Perhaps Spider-Man isn't the only superhero in New York. Since most chapters involve collecting a ton of hero points, you're probably going to find yourself talking to citizens pretty often just to speed up the process. There are different types of missions. There's racing missions where you can web sling and race through rings and other things. I rarely ever use these missions. They're not bad, but they're just not my thing. You can also deliver pizzas at Mr. Aziz's pizza place. I only did the first mission and didn't bother with the rest. But hey, the option's there if you want to do these missions. Also get used to that damn pizza music when playing these missions. But that's already a popular meme by this point, so I'm just gonna move on.
Pizza time.
Let's talk about the graphics. Honestly, I still kinda like the way this game looks. Character models can be a bit iffy, but the environments, buildings, and other things, it still looks pretty good in my opinion. I love the reflective windows on some skyscrapers. The details put into some structures still hold up today. It's a pretty looking game, and not bad for last gen graphics. The music in this game is also especially good. There were two types of soundtracks made for the game, one being orchestral, and the other being performed by a band called KMFDM, and their stuff sounds more like synthesized rock music. The band's music made for the game is pretty solid. You're going to be hearing them pretty often in most missions throughout the game. Though apparently KMFDM had their soundtrack for the game made available to download back in the day, but I can't seem to find it anywhere nowadays. Maybe if there's enough popular demand they'll put it back up, who knows. KMFDM's music is fine and good, but I'm more interested in the orchestral soundtrack. Composed by Michael McHuston, who composed the first movie game, and Lolita Ritmanis, and performed by an actual live orchestra, which is bonkers. The orchestral soundtrack is really good. I highly recommend checking it out because it's so fascinating to listen to. I'm sure if I grew up playing this game, I probably would have thought this was Danny Elfman's work too. It's that well done. Definitely check out the soundtracks for this game because they're both really great. You all did a solid job, guys. Back to the gameplay, the main campaign is a solid adventure through and through. Something about just web slinging around New York just feels very gratifying. It just feels so nice. I know this is cliche to say, but you really do feel like you're Spider-Man. It's a good experience. Also, while you're swinging around, we often hear Peter have inner monologues depending on which part of the story he's currently in. While Tobey's voice acting isn't too great here, I do like this idea a lot. It fits Spidey's character. Sure, sometimes it could be a little too on the nose with some of the stuff he talks about that should already be obvious to the audience, but I still really like this idea and I wish more Spider-Man games used it. Disclaimer, again, I still have not played Spider-Man PS4, so I have no idea if they brought this idea back in some shape or form in that game. Is Spider-Man 2 perfect? Of course not. Especially after 16 years? Hell yeah, it has flaws. For starters, when you complete a mission or story chapter, you're not given any health drops to restore your health. Maybe Ultimate Spider-Man kinda spoiled me with this, but I feel they should have given you your full health back after a mission was done. Instead, you have to go back to the shop and buy more health. That's just tedious. Another thing, this game's boss fights are a complete joke. Rhino is really easy to figure out, but he is the first boss you encounter, so it's kind of excusable here. Shocker's boss fights are also kind of easy too, they just drag on for a bit. Yes, I said boss fights, they gave Shocker 2 boss fights in the game. I do prefer the second boss fight over the first one because that one felt like it was more of a challenge. The fights with Doc Ock can range from decently difficult to absolutely irritating to fight. Ock is always sending his robotic arms at you, and you gotta dodge each arm before you can get a clear shot at him. As much as I don't like these two fights, I will say they're probably the best boss fights in this game, but only by technicality. My favorite boss fight is with Mysterio, hilariously enough. All you gotta do is just walk up to him and punch him. It's such a dumb idea, but I think the game designers did a solid job with this joke of a boss fight. It also fits for this portrayal of Mysterio's character too.
I give up. Don't hit me again.
One thing that can also sort of take me out of the game are the ragdoll physics. I don't know, they just look goofy here. I do love ragdoll physics, but in this game, I think it was a little too overdone. It just looks ridiculous when you make a character like Doc Ock ragdoll. Just takes the whole tension of the boss fights and completely throws them out the window. Moving on, obviously you have to complete the campaign for this game, which takes a solid 5 to 6 hours. Not a bad length for this game. I love how in the end credits, Treyarch gives a special thanks to Neversoft. That's sweet. Also, rest in peace Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Thank you both for your decades worth of entertainment. After the campaign, you're still allowed to swing around the city and do more missions and such. That's just about it. I've never 100%ed this game before, though I heard the reward for doing so is kind of insulting and not worth it at all. But I'll let you guys decide if you want to beat this game all the way or not. And that's pretty much all the content there is for me to talk about in Spider-Man 2. I'm sorry this review wasn't 2 hours long and took 3 years to come out, but I'm glad to have finally got this video made. To wrap up, Spider-Man 2 the game is a solid licensed game that I personally would say still holds up today. The storyline and cutscenes aren't the best, but they are entertaining. The gameplay can still be a lot of fun, and the game's soundtracks are both really good. So yeah, check out Spider-Man 2 the game if you have not. And make sure you get the home console version and not the PC version. Jesus. Unless you already own Spider-Man PS4 and pretty much have no reason to go back to Spider-Man 2. Though I would still recommend checking out where this Spidey gameplay originated from. Gotta respect its origins in some way. Play this game if you were at all interested. Oh my god, that was the Spider-Man 2 review. Finally, I'm free! Well, seeing how this review took 3 years to come out, I guess that means I'll see you guys in 3 years for Ultimate Spider-Man, 6 years for Spider-Man 3, and 9 years for Web of Shadows. Gotta finish this marathon somehow. And I'm not even done with Spider-Man 2 for this channel. Like, I have so many other options, like Spider-Man 2 on the GBA, Spider-Man 2 on the DS, Spider-Man 2 on the horrible PC version, Spider-Man 2 on the PSP. Like, we're not even done yet. We got so much more to look at. For real though, thank you all for watching and for waiting so long for my Spider-Man 2 review to come out. I'm sorry this couldn't happen on Cooper's perspective, but hey, this is better than nothing. God, I really hope I didn't overhype this video for the past 3 years and everyone probably expected a much better video than this one.